A man walks to market to buy pig feed and never comes home. A couple goes walking by the canal and never comes back. An elderly couple goes to sleep with the gate latched and never wakes up. 3 ordinary nights, and in all 3, someone was already there. Welcome to Paws&Clues with Ajax. Every case leaves a trace, and today we're following 3 of the darkest ones on record. May 2000. Shenyang, in China's industrial northeast, just after dawn along the South Canal, and an older man out for his morning jog is having a perfectly ordinary day. Then a color catches his eye. Something pale, off in the grass, where nothing pale should be. His first instinct is to look away. Who would be lying out here in the open? Then a colder thought lands. Unless they can't get up. He makes himself walk over, and on a flat patch of grass beside the water, he finds 2 young people, a man and a woman, both around 20. Neither is going to get up. Each has a single, precise wound to the left side of the chest, and the young woman has been assaulted. And going back through their files, Shenyang police realized this wasn't the first. September that same year, the west bank of the North Canal, an older man and a woman, same wounds, chest and neck, terrible precision. The woman assaulted, her red bicycle gone. October 2002, a college botanical garden, a couple, same story, her bicycle taken. Someone was working the quiet corners of a city of 8 million, the exact places couples went to be alone. The lab work confirmed the nightmare. 1 man. The city filed it as serial case number 54, and from the evidence they built a shape of him, because that's all they had. Short, a northern accent, a deep frown line between the eyebrows, a drifter or migrant labourer, moving by bicycle, using a single-edged blade a little over 4 inches long. So they flooded the zone. Round-the-clock plainclothes patrols on every canal. Officers dressed as trash collectors, officers on park benches in the dark, posing as couples, waiting to be chosen. And he simply never showed up where they were. The attacks kept coming, just never where the trap was set. Shenyang's detectives kept describing it the same way, less like hunting a man, more like something out of a ghost story, drifting closer. So the break, when it came, didn't come from a stakeout. It came from a jail cell. Summer of 2003. The province launched a 100-day crackdown, part of which involved encouraging inmates to give up information on other people's crimes in exchange for leniency. At a detention center in Shenyang, a guard noticed 1 inmate, a man surnamed Zhao, in for stealing a motorcycle. Zhao couldn't sit still, couldn't sleep, like a man wrestling with something he'd carried too long. So the guard talked to him, patiently, for days. And on the 1st of July, Zhao broke. Listen to the description he gave. Early 30s, from Kaiyuan. Short, cold. He'd robbed people in the parks many times, always carried a blade, rode a bicycle, wore yellow rubber shoes. Once, Zhao had seen him holding a necklace with dark stains on it and an expensive watch, and the man said flatly that he'd taken them. One rainy day, he'd invited Zhao along on a job, and when it fell through, gave him a lesson in the craft. On rainy days, go to the pavilions in the parks, because that's where couples take shelter. Show them the blade, and they won't dare resist. Every detail lined up with serial case 54. The height, the accent, the parks, the blade, the bicycle. After 8 years of chasing a ghost, the ghost had a name. Wang Qiang. On the 14th of July 2003, detectives drove into his home village, and a police driver who'd known him since they were kids recognized his face through the windshield. He was on the ground before he understood what was happening. A small, thin man by a country bridge in the summer heat. And his village refused to believe it. That polite young man who helped his mother with the farm work. Not possible. That was the mask. Here's what was behind it. His first attack was the 22nd of January 1995, when he was 20. He stood 5'2" and weighed almost nothing, and investigators concluded that his size is exactly why he attacked the way he did. Always from behind, from ambush, never once face to face. In 1996, he was actually arrested. not for the parks, but for impersonating a police officer to extort people. His own girlfriend turned him in. And because departments in that era didn't cross-check files, nobody ever compared him against what was piling up along the canals. He was released from labor camp early, on the 4th of December 1998. He attacked in Shenyang that same night, hours after walking out. After his marriage collapsed, it stopped having brakes on it. Between late 2002 and mid-2003, he struck again and again, and by then he wasn't running afterward, and he wasn't panicking. He was leaving evidence on purpose, taunting the people hunting him. Once he started confessing, he could recite the date and location of every single case, one after another, without notes, because he remembered all of them. It took investigators around 18 months, and he toyed with them the whole time, getting details wrong on purpose to watch them chase it. 3 days before the end, he demanded a plate of shrimp, and only once they gave it to him did he give up one more case. Final count: 8.5 years, more than 100 separate crimes, 10 sexual assaults, 45 lives. The total he walked away with was about $4,000, under $90 a life. On the 23rd of March 2005, the Shenyang Intermediate Court sentenced him to death. He was executed that November, at 30. 45 people, and it still took a stranger in a jail cell to end it. Which brings us to a mountain county 15 years earlier, where nobody needed a stakeout at all, because the man they were looking for wasn't going anywhere. He was sitting at home, waiting for the next one to knock. The 16th of May, 1985. Shang County, Shaanxi Province. Poor mountain country, terraced fields. Everyone knows everyone. It's market day, and two brothers walk into town. The younger one, Du Changying, a healthy man in his 40s, wants cheap bean cake to feed his pigs. They split up to shop, and that is the last time anyone in his family ever sees him. And you have to understand what that meant there, that year. People didn't wander. They barely went to the next town over. Nobody just vanished from Shang County. The family searched 10 days. Nothing. Then the older brother went to see a cousin who worked at the county paper mill, just to ask him to keep an eye out. And the cousin went very quiet. Because he had a story of his own. A few days earlier, a stranger had walked into that mill holding a small IOU slip worth 2 yuan, the kind the mill wrote out when it was short on cash. And the name on it was Du Changying. The cousin asked where he'd gotten it. The man said Du Changying owed him money and had handed it over to settle the debt. The cousin didn't believe a word of it and chased him off. But he remembered him, because the man had one feature you could not miss. He was tiny, under 5 feet tall. So the family had something to hunt. Within days, they cornered that little man on the street and told him he was walking to the police station with them. And here's where it gets strange. He didn't run. He didn't panic. He dropped to the ground, thrashing and screaming that he was being kidnapped, that he was an innocent man being framed, rolling in the dirt, pulling a crowd. And as that scene unfolded, a second man pushed through and pointed at him. I know him. I've been looking for him too. That January, his younger brother had gone out to that man's house to dig a pig pen for 5 yuan a day and never came back. 2 families, 2 missing men, both trails ending at the same tiny, screaming stranger. Police took him in on the 28th of May, and for 7 hours he gave them nothing but that same performance, plus an announcement, and this is real, that he was his village's model citizen for family planning. Several officers looked at this pathetic little clown and wanted to let him walk. One senior officer said, "Not yet. Tomorrow morning, before we release him, let's go look at his house." That one decision is the only reason anyone ever found out. 2 officers drove out the next morning, and the moment they got close, they knew, because the place didn't look like somewhere a person lived. Every window was sealed shut with mud brick. The filth inside was so deep you couldn't see the floor, and underneath the reek of it was something else. Something sweeter, and much worse. His wife was in one of the rooms. She'd had brain damage from childhood meningitis and couldn't walk. She moved by dragging herself across the floor. The officers expected nothing from her. And then she said one thing, almost cheerfully, that froze them both. "One time I was washing clothes, and the water just turned red." Asked what she meant, she only smiled and said nothing more. The chief heard that and said one word: dig. They started in the yard, 2 sets of remains beside the straw pile, 1 inside a fertilizer sack, 4 under the wall by the outhouse, by then nothing but bone. A second pit gave up 8. Then a villager mentioned the family used to have an old root cellar for storing radishes, and that a while back, for no reason anyone understood, the little man had filled it in. They opened it. 33, stacked in layers. One officer on that dig said that years later he still remembered whispering every time the shovel went down, "Please, not another one." And every time, it was another one. 48 human beings, 31 men, 17 women. And the man who put them there was Zhimin. His method came out in interrogation, and it's somehow worse than the number. Zhimin was, by every account, lazy. A man who flatly refused to do farm labor, with a wife who couldn't work. So he went to the bus station and the town market, where poor people gathered looking for a day's work, and made offers. Unusually high wages, a free place to stay the night, and for unmarried men, he'd say he knew a woman he could introduce them to. Then he brought them home, had them do his labor all day for free, and that night, once they were asleep, he took a mattock to them while his wife held the lamp. Anyone not immediately still, he finished with a knife. He cut the long hair off the bodies and kept their clothes, and in at least 3 cases, investigators established that he pressured the men into relations with his disabled wife first, then waited for them to fall asleep. In the first 5 months of 1985 alone, he did this 36 times, and the total value of everything he took from all 48 people, 573 yuan and 6 wristwatches, under $200, about $4 a life. Here's what should keep you up. By May of 1985, 37 people had been reported missing to that county's police, and nobody connected any of it. And at least one man walked out of that house alive, invited to stay the night, and the smell was so bad and the feeling so wrong that he sat up chain-smoking until sunrise. He never slept. He left at dawn complaining about the stink, never knowing a pack of cigarettes was the only thing between him and the pit in the yard. He never showed a second of remorse. He told officers he'd been doing society a favor by clearing out people he considered useless, which wasn't even true. Most of his victims were healthy laborers looking for work. And when the death sentence came down in court, he objected. On the record, Wang Qiang took 8 million lives and was never sentenced to death. So why me? He and his wife were indicted on the 30th of August, 1985, sentenced to death on the 20th of September, and executed on the 27th. When the court posted the public verdict notices, only 3 copies went up, each with an officer guarding it. No copying, no photographs, and they came down within half an hour. Nobody wanted people to know how bad it had been. Our number 1 was never local anywhere, and the reason he lasted 3 years is that for most of it, police weren't just failing to catch him, they didn't know he existed. September 2000. A village called Guozhuang in Zhoukou, Henan province. It's early, everyone's waking up for a day in the fields, and as people pass one particular house, something feels off. The old man who lived there was always up first, sweeping, tending the gate. But this morning the gate is shut tight, and there's no sound at all. Neighbors knock. Nothing. They knock longer. Nothing. So someone steps up to a window and looks in. And there, on the floor, side by side, are the 2 old people who lived there. The officers who came out were hardened men, and even they went quiet. The couple had been attacked in their sleep with something heavy and blunt. No struggle, No defensive wounds. They never woke up. The house had been torn apart, and whoever did it was meticulous enough to clean up his own footprints. There was almost nothing to work with. So police did what made sense at the time. They looked at locals with records, found a man with a theft conviction and a grudge against the couple, and leaned on him until he signed a confession. Case announced as solved. Except the evidence didn't match his story. There was no weapon, and prosecutors refused to charge him. It dragged on, because he hadn't done it. That innocent man sat in a cell for 994 days. And while he sat there, 2 weeks after that first attack, a village in Anhui province, a different province entirely, woke up to the same thing. A 63-year-old woman and her 2 grandchildren, a 12-year-old girl and a 7-year-old boy, attacked in their sleep. A whole household, gone in one night. And the police there did the exact same thing. Local man, old record, hard interrogation, signed confession, even though the details didn't match the scene. 2 provinces, 2 nearly identical scenes, 2 innocent men in cells. And here's why nobody put them together. Back then there was no unified national case system. Neighbouring counties rarely shared anything, and evidence from the 2 scenes went to 2 provincial labs that did not talk. And in each town, officers believed they'd already caught their man. Nobody wants to reopen a case they've declared solved, or admit the confession they got was false. So each attack sat in its own box, treated as an isolated local crime. And the man responsible understood that gap perfectly. He kept walking across lines on a map nobody was looking at. It took until October of 2002, and pure luck, to crack it, when an officer visiting from a neighbouring district heard the details of a fresh scene and said the sentence that changes everything. Wait, that sounds exactly like one of ours. The 2 departments compared crime scene photos, the wounds, the point of entry, even the pry marks on a wooden chest, and they were identical. When traces from all of it were finally compared in one room, the answer silenced the room. 100% match. One man. And now that they were looking with clear eyes, the scale came into focus. Since August of 2001, across 7 cities and 11 counties in southern Henan alone, more than a dozen of these attacks. By early 2003, he was averaging over 2 a month. A profiler drew the portrait. Poor rural background, a prison record, 25 to 35, short and wiry, quiet, withdrawn. The kind of man who reads as harmless. He picked remote farmhouses with low walls and women inside, went in between 1 and 4 in the morning, ended it with a single blow, took a small amount of cash, and left. Always on foot. So 4 provinces, Henan, Anhui, Shandong, Hebei, tore down their jurisdictional walls and launched a manhunt with tens of thousands of officers, checkpoints at village entrances, over 30,000 sets of fingerprints in one county alone, and a bounty worth around $24,000. Rural stations fielded 100 tips a month, and every one was a dead end. And then, on the 2nd of November, 2003, a hotel clerk in Changzhou picked up a phone. There was a guest in room 205 who checked in with no ID, under the name Li Jun, heavy Henan accent. Slept all day with the light off, went out all night, came back every morning covered in fine grey dust, like a man who'd been walking dirt roads until sunrise. It didn't fit someone in town looking for work. It fit the wanted notice exactly. The next morning at 10:40, officers took him down near a railway underpass as he tried to leave. On him, a folding knife and 500 yuan. He refused to give his real name, and he was arrogant. Told them DNA is only 99% accurate, so he'd be the 1%. On the 5th of November, the lab came back. He was not the 1%. And then he gave them his real name. Yang Xinhai. 26 cases, 67 lives taken, 10 more critically injured, 23 sexual assaults. 4 provinces, 3 years and 2 months, all of it on foot. The most prolific individual offender in China since 1949, And the detail that defines him: he never left survivors. Ever. Not the elderly, not the children. Whole families ended in their sleep without ever waking. He wasn't doing it for money. Across 26 attacks, the total he took was trivial. Asked why he never went after a wealthy household, he answered plainly: rich people he couldn't afford to provoke. So he chose people even weaker than he was. Asked what he felt doing it, he said, nothing, no feeling at all. Asked in court for a reason, he said he wanted to take lives and to hurt society. He went on trial on the 1st of February 2004 in Luohe. The prosecutor's file stood about 1.5 feet high, and the hearing ran until 7:30 at night. Death on all counts. He declined to appeal and made one request: that the verdict not be sent to his parents. On the 14th of February 2004, Valentine's Day, the sentence was carried out. He was 35. One thing came out of it. The blind spot that let him walk unseen for 3 years is a large part of what pushed China to build a unified national DNA database and link police records nationwide. That gap closed. Paid for by 67 people who never knew they were buying anything. 45 in the parks. 48 in a yard. And all 3 were stopped in the end, not by brilliant detective work, but by one ordinary person who noticed something small and said it out loud. A cousin who remembered a face, an inmate who couldn't sleep, a clerk who noticed the dust. So how many people notice the thing that's slightly wrong and say nothing? Thanks for watching Paws and Clues with Ajax. I hope you found today's stories as haunting as I did. And until next time, keep following the clues. I'll see you in the next one.